Morning, Sal.
We've got to put my ears on.
Mhm.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm still sick.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see how it goes. I may need to leave a few minutes early. Lucia doesn't have school today, as you probably know,
Oh,
and she's got I signed her up for art camp downtown, but it starts at 9. So if things seem like you'll get along without me, then I may step out a few minutes early to take her to her.
yeah. No, that's great. I'm glad you're able to sit in on whatever time you've got. Yeah. I guess East Montpelier might have a different schedule. Our grandkids are in school today.
Okay.
They have
Yeah.
Monday all day off though, so I'll
Yeah.
be grandchild care with three of them all day with
Ooh.
Elaine. Yeah, we'll sleep well on Monday night.
Yeah.
Hope it's good weather. Get them outside.
Good morning.
Good
Hi.
morning. Okay, the gang is all here. Good morning, everybody. I will call the meeting to order. Any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, agenda is approved. Want to remind everyone, welcome the public, of course. Remind everyone that this is a working session, so we'll accept public comment now, but then we have to boogie on our work. Does anyone from the public want to comment?
Yeah, I do. This is Steve Whitaker.
Go ahead, Steve.
Under 24 VSA 4384 to 4387, it's the Planning Commission, not a development subcommittee, that must first adopt a master plan and capital budget alignment before the land can be committed to development. Moving directly to an RFP reverses that sequence. It risks later findings that contracts were issued without proper jurisdiction or public notice. Fiduciary and procurement risks. The city owns roughly $4 million worth of upland real estate. To market that land for $1 without an independent valuation or without clear public benefit findings exposes every signer to a fiduciary liability. Moreover, the draft language appears modeled on prior consultant materials, effectively creating a sole source RFP disguised as competition, which violates the city's procurement policy. Written justification for waiver has not been produced. Funding compliance. Federal and state partners, HUD, Northern Borders Regional Commission, CDBG, DR require documented planning basis for any developer selection. Proceeding now could jeopardize further reimbursement because no adopted master planning document exists to justify infrastructure affordability assumptions. There is a simple path forward. Before finalizing any RFP, adopt a community vision and feasibility framework as an addendum to the city plan. And that has a complex adoption process. Define the affordability targets, the infrastructure phasing, and the environmental remediation standards. Then issue an RFP grounded in that framework. Councilor Gill has called for this vision first approach. It protects the city and it rebuilds public trust. I urge the committee to pause and complete the lawful planning step before contracting away a public asset. If the city proceeds without that step, it will not be for lack of warning on the record. This is a moment to demonstrate that Montpelier values transparency and stewardship as much as it does construction.
Thank you, Steve. The committee is not contracting today. The comments are noted. Any other public comment? All right, let's proceed with the development of the RFQ. Thank you, Stephanie, for the sort of sub-agenda. The ball is in your court.
Great. Thank you, Sal. Good morning, everybody. So it was a late night of compiling again. So this was my attempt at wanting to get, after this is iterative. So every meeting, what we got through yesterday versus what we want to get through today and the next few times. And because we have a longer stretch between today and our next meeting, I can give you more homework. So I wanted to go through that today, which is this is the subcommittee schedule I had set out last week. And then this would be some updates to it based on what we've been able to accomplish this week. So last week we did what was on October 3rd. Yesterday we did this discussion. Today I'm proposing we continue that discussion through the framework that you did with your homework. And then I will, we can discuss the distribution list and I can walk you through what the homework will be for that distribution list so that you can have the time between now and then to go through it and absorb it and then be able to, we can have a substantive conversation about that on next Wednesday. And then the other homework will be the RFQ structure and sections. So again, you're going to get a draft of the actual RFQ that we are going to actually go through the actual language. And I'm unclear exactly when we'll have that to you. My hope would be early next week, excuse me, like Monday timeframe, but it is somewhat dependent on city capacity too, because they've got to fill in some sections. So that would be the homework then, and we'll discuss how that looks generally, so that we can discuss that next Wednesday. And then I had previously put that we could discuss the matrix if we had time, which is the kind of how you evaluate the RFQs when they come in and how you evaluate comparatively, quantitatively and qualitatively. And I can show you a template for that, but it doesn't have to go with the RFQ. So I expect that this subcommittee, after the issuance of the RFQ, could continue to meet. And if that assumption is correct, that would be something we could be working on while we're waiting for the quals to come in. The last meeting would be next Thursday, which would be to review the final RFQ and, anything else needed in that last hour. And then it can have a vote to go out, I think, if that's how the process works with the subcommittee to send it up to the full council. Does that sound like an okay, or are there any questions about that process for the next week?
I think everything you're suggesting is possible, and I think we can continue the subcommittee to examine the matrix after next week's scheduled meetings.
Okay, great. And okay, great. So let's move on to the homework, and thank you for everybody sending up more feedback and for the conversation yesterday. So what we're going to do is, I think it's worth going back through a couple of the points that we did yesterday and not lose track of that, because there were a few more additions. And so we can go back through some of the same sections we were in yesterday, vision and requirements and incentives. And then we can move on to the last few sections. I'm going to open this document here. Okay, you can see my screen. So a subcommittee member did share that there could be an opening, there could be part of the context, could be the description of the vision. And we had talked about that yesterday. And I just want to, we can further workshop this in the actual draft when you do your redlining of the actual draft and the language, and then we can get together and hash out what goes in, what stays in and what doesn't. And you can debate that amongst yourselves. But I wanted to pose this as something that someone proposed that could be, and if the person wants to speak to it, they can.
I think it's no surprise to anyone who it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, Adrian and Ben were both on the subcommittee where I expressed this very same thought. I mean, it's just you know, I don't know how we couch the terms, but I think it's significant to alert the developers that this in fact is the last open, flat, non-flooding area in the city. And it has been, you know, was purchased in part for recreation, and we just need to recognize that and, you know, be mindful of that, even with the defined recreation area. I think, you know, they need to take into account the fact that there will be playing fields and recreation activity adjacent to whatever housing is constructed, whatever infrastructure is there. So that's why I'd like to somehow work that into the general statement of the vision for the property. I think it's appropriate. I don't know how others feel.
I agree. I think that's the flattest land, which obviously is probably the easiest and cheapest land to build off of. But I think we do need to preserve it because that is, I mean, you go up there 7 days a week and that's where everyone's playing soccer and walking but you know, if a developer is creative and innovative, I think there's ways to build on this land that we can achieve that goal, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I also think that gently sloped property can be a boon to developers. I mean, if they get creative their way, it's a little more. It might be a little more difficult in some ways, but it allows for, with the application of some creativity, it allows for some unique approaches to like accessibility and that sort of thing. So, you know, the site is basically sloped except for that one significant area.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I remember it well. I think the caution that I would just have is that, you know, we did develop the buildable area, you know, like this site map, right, that has buildable areas, recreational areas. And so I want to be cautious about sending out mixed messages of like, here are the buildable areas, but and I felt like actually the last time the subcommittee or, you know, the previous subcommittee worked together, we came up, you know, in the memo that we wrote to accompany the buildable areas map, we wrote ensure flexibility in the design of active recreation areas currently envisioned for the eastern portion of the property and allow for potential additional recreational space within buildable areas, provided that housing density goals are not compromised.
Yeah, I recall that. And as long as we make that available to the developers, a message such as that, I think that, you know, that satisfies my concern.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I would suggest is like we actually, I don't, you know, Stephanie, I guess I would look to you on the format of these RFQs or RFPs, but like that's the language that I would suggest we use in the RFQ or RFP.
Yeah, I think lifting that straight from it, and then it'll be an appendix anyway. All that work from spring will be an appendix. What I what I want to caution is, we want to leave it open to flexibility is really the main thing, and just see what people come back with. And I will, you know, speak to the public process that happened in 22-23, which was that folks understood that that was the last flat area, but that would also create probably the best economies in order to create housing that was affordable too. And so creating the recreation on one side was the, you know, the desire to put the recreation on one side and then have housing on the rest. And, you know, yes, there is a sacrifice with that flat area, but it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, black or white, right?
Well, and we can
be integrated.
Yeah, we can dive more deeply into it when we've identified potential developers, I think. So.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, so yeah, we'll do that. All right. So scrolling down, we did talk about the partnership opportunity yesterday to talk about some incentives and some requirements. One subcommittee member mentioned just, you know, could it be not just encouraged, but this high performance standard be considered extra points, because really that does contribute to affordability in the long term, and it addresses climate change concerns. I don't see a problem with saying is encouraged and will be given extra consideration in this stage, and then later we can kind of assign some point values when we develop the RFP. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay. This was a question. So these were okay. So this is where we left off yesterday. So to consider putting this in, we said yes. A mixed using housing sizes pricing. Is everybody comfortable with that as a? I don't know if we want to say this is required, or if this wants to be again like strongly encouraged, something like that, because this is the requirements section of the.
Yeah, I think we want mixed housing type sizes and pricing. I mean, I think that's the whole, isn't that the whole
It
point?
just may not happen in the first phase. I was just thinking like, because you may come
Oh,
back with
okay.
like, you may just come back with one property. You know what, like let's start small and see what, you know, what can go
Okay.
from there. And so someone might come back with the first project is 30 workforce units, you know, and that's not a bad thing, you know, if your long-term vision is to then. So it just, I don't know how much, I think like it just, like you said, I think we could say something like the ultimate full build out vision is.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right, I'll make that note here. Okay. Moving on. So this is that affordability piece. Does this feel comfortable? This is kind of a standard talking about workforce housing, workforce affordability to create some baseline understanding. And then
Yes.
these are three that were suggested, and so if you want to include this in a requirement, or if you would rather put this into the vision part of things, you know, we can talk about the vision and the background, or this, because again, when you say it's a requirement, that's going to add a level of, you know, necessity into this. And again, we're thinking long-term big vision when it's fully built out versus the qualifications for the first project.
So I wrote those. I think, I know you guys are going to disagree with me. It looks like you've already disagreed with me, which is fine. But I think I really feel like it is so important to think about the vision of where we're going, right? You have to have an end goal, right? And so I don't want, I guess what I want to avoid is the developers coming in and we might have a phase one, we might have a phase two, we might have a phase three, but I still want to work towards some type of cohesive vision, right? So I don't want like a phase one being this, like Legos, right? Like here's this Lego world, and then here's phase two, which doesn't even
Yeah, no,
maybe, you know.
Yeah.
I agree. I think of the word neighborhood as a sort of code for that, but you know, if there's a way to be more explicit that we're again talking about the full development of of all, you know, the entirety of the housing that'll be developed there would have this characteristic.
So
Again,
I'm
if we
gonna
do
put
it,
a comment in here. Let's see if
there's
I
a
can-
way to do that.
Hold on.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable trying to weave this into the kind of, again, explaining where the city wants this to go, and that this needs to be consistent with a goal, with a vision. Is this among the three of you? And I know the three of you don't, you know, represent the entire city, but you know, you've been deputized to do this by the council, by the voters who voted you in, who then voted for the council to create the subcommittee. So does this feel consistent with something that you can represent is the vision at this stage?
I think
think so.
I think I worry just about the specificity of it. Like I agree actually, Adrian, with what you're talking about, and Sal. It's the specificity of it that makes me a little bit nervous. Like, you know, that the community town center, like what do we mean by that? Right. And like I think we've seen this in other communities. Like I can't remember what the community is, but they had like a new town center where they were supposed to have a community center and they ended up putting in a gazebo and like just like what do we actually mean by that and who's responsible for that? And you know, again, for me, I just worry about putting up barriers that end up limiting the number of people that actually respond to an RFP. So I love the idea of like articulating a vision about like a walkable community that's connected and fosters, you know, community connections and provides opportunities for you know, people getting together and things like that. I just don't want to be so specific that it's like, you know, you need to build us this thing.
Well, yeah, no, I was speaking to the walkable connected neighborhood portion.
Yeah.
I think the community, you know, the town center, I think that's I would not include that here. To me, the city's recreation, whatever they do with their recreation facility, by the time they get around to doing that, I think it will incorporate a community space, particularly if some housing development has taken place at that time. So I'd rather not put that constraint on this. And I am not sure about community resources either. I don't know exactly what we're talking about. I'm aware of subdivisions that have, outdoor barbecue facilities and so on, where they don't allow that sort of thing on a porch or a balcony. But a community kitchen and that sort of thing, I'm not sure how that fits, or whether that's something we need to mention at this stage. Adrian,
Well, we can mention it. I can offer that, I'm just envisioning my next very many late nights of drafting and maybe pulling this together into a cohesive, again, like description of the vision. And it doesn't have to be, thou shalt, provide community gardens, but, there is a desire for this, you're giving the aesthetic, right? And the intent and the important value of it, and let them come back to you. Because again, we don't know what we don't know. It could be something we've just never thought of. It's a rooftop garden. It's a, whatever that might look like to them, that could meet the same value. So if we describe it well enough, and I think that's where we might need to leave this, because we're not going to draft it as a, 4-person group on, on Zoom, but we can draft it and actually look at how it reads, and so that it's reading and it's sending the right message. And then under requirements, we're saying you need to show us how your vision aligns with, or how would it meet some, if not all, of the points of the city's vision, or something to that effect. Again, I don't have the right language right now, but
I think to me, it's like neighborhood is one word for it, but like an intentional community that's integrated into the landscape and sense of place, right? That like that it's like actually architecture that brings people together. And I think there's a lot of different creative, innovative ways to do that. I just don't want to be prescriptive.
And I think to Adrian's point, kind of the Lego approach, is like, whoever proposes this first project, we don't want to disincentivize somebody who has a really good first project, because there's nothing like a first project to get you going, right? Like the momentum that creates, the incentive that creates, like it's going to get more funding, it's going to get more interest, and the people that start living there are going to, there's good things that can happen. So sometimes the best thing is the first small discrete project that can go, and at the same time, to avoid a piecemeal approach, we may, we could talk about that too in this, and say, it's fine if you have a smaller project or a first project, but we need to know how you would consider that in a larger vision, or how would it not preclude someone else from coming
exactly
back?
as long as it doesn't preclude future development. I mean, is there consensus on these 3 items: the walkable, connected, the shared resources, and the town center? Or
Kind of in general, and we can whittle it down with language.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. I think we're going to talk about this, but it's going to be so critical to ensure that we reach out to developers that do this work, because it will make sense to them. And I think,
exactly.
if we have, I can't, I will send an email to Stephanie, but I condense this into just one sentence that we can just include in a vision that encompasses the essence and the vision. So I'll send that to you, Stephanie, but I think we could, I put those in as examples, obviously long-winded to get, my thoughts across, but we can condense it so that people understand what we're talking about, what we're trying to get to.
Absolutely. And also, remember, all of this is, they have full access to the internet and your website that has all the data and the history of what's been discussed by the public too. So these concepts were all discussed by the public. So somebody who's the right partner is going to have done their homework and looked into what you're looking for. All right, let's move on. Thank you for that. We've got the requested information from developers, which I think is a little more straightforward. We've got, these are all consensus everyone agreed these need to be included. And specifically, we've added this, point that they need to indicate whether they're interested in developing the whole project or only a portion, which of the buildable areas, if not all. And then we have to consider these more specific items. And there was some consensus that we don't need very specific financial projections. And I would very much recommend against doing specific financial projections at this point so that we can really get people, especially Adrian, I was looking at some of those websites, these are big players, bigger, and we want to be on their radar, and they don't know us. So
Yeah,
let's
no.
get them to the table. And so they're not going to spend time putting financial projections out. They're just not.
Okay.
So they're going to, because they don't know what like you're all about. Like we're reaching out to them. They've never heard of us. And so we want them at the table. If they just have to send us like what they kind of send anybody that they're interested in working with and get them to the table and then let them start putting their pencils to the paper, I think we're going to have a better success rate.
I sort of felt the same way about the schedule, frankly.
Schedule, same thing. Yeah. More
Yeah.
like, general. I do want to ask them like, because some people have constraints on because of their funding, like they can't build something until 2028. Their pipeline is full until 2029, whatever like that. We would like to know that up front, especially because the CDBG money is important.
I'm going to say that, like, we want to make sure that we build within,
They have to be able to commit.
right.
Yeah, I actually don't know why. Well, I think I had that somewhere up above, but no, it's we do need.
Well, actually, sorry, maybe we should just talk about this for a second, because maybe they don't need to commit because or for this stage of the process, I mean, there's a chance we don't get, a real chance we don't get the CBGDR, right? In which case we
but we need to know.
If we do get preference will be given to folks who can commit to doing it sooner than later for multiple reasons, right? Like even if it wasn't CDBGR.
I do like the idea of the long-term management of rental, though. I would like to include that.
Yeah, that was a good suggestion. It's kind of you can just say it doesn't have to be very specific about their rental strategy, but rather like, generally, are they planning to be the owner and rent these properties for long periods of time? Are they looking to condoize? Are they looking to, God forbid, short-term rental? Tell us now so we can uninvite you. I don't know. Sorry, my bias there. I like a good short-term rental too.
It's shared.
Going for. And so, and I think that was what you were getting at, Ben. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I literally was just I'm thinking about like just steward property management, right? That like don't own some buildings and manage them. Other people own them and they manage them. Like who's, is this a developer who just builds buildings and then walks away, and like who is going to manage that building?
It's a good idea. I think.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a really solid list. If you are okay with that for requirements of submissions. And then the selection criteria builds off of that, right? It responds back to what they've submitted. So the first 6, we have consensus for general consistency with, level of affordability. Again, that's going to stay up in the high level for the first qualification round. But, are they proposing single family homes that are, multi-million-dollar homes? We're going to quickly be able to say they're not part of our vision. But this is down where this is where we got into some, not disagreement, but some discussion points. So how do we evaluate their financial strength? I think that should be part of the selection criteria, if I'm giving my opinion. But again, it doesn't have to be, we're not doing a deep dive into their books right now, but if you've got somebody who's, one of the things we've asked for is financing, like financial capacity. We've asked them to, that's really what that means. I should put that in there because it's really financial capacity that we're asking for them to show us in the first qualification round.
Okay, that kind of clears it. I was kind of curious as to what we're asking them to submit there. All right. So financial capacity is interesting. Yeah.
That means different things to different developers, but you can pretty quickly tell right off the bat whether or not what they're proposing is proportionate to what they've proven they've got capacity for. Again, this is selection criteria. we haven't built the matrix yet. You could choose to put this as a low, what's the word? Not scale.
Low value.
Weight,
Low,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And so it could be lower weight, you know, you don't necessarily have to disqualify somebody because they haven't proven that they've got 100% capacity, because they may want to bring other partners to the table that they haven't put together yet, or they may already have other funding sources in mind if they got qualified for using this special technology. A lot of, like, you know, we're seeing new funding sources for things like geothermal and things, you know, like mass timber, you know, like, we don't want to disqualify somebody because they have a good idea. So preliminary cost estimate, you know, we're not really asking for that.
Seemed too soon to me, but
I think
you
it's
know,
for
I'll
that.
go with your recommendation, really. Do others feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the RFQ, right? Like,
Yeah.
Seems,
they're
yeah.
they're not
yeah,
gonna.
Yeah.
And same thing with the preliminary financial plan. We're just not asking for that at this stage.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Does the projected rental rate sort of duplicate the questions about affordability and so on? I
It
mean,
does,
seems-
it
yeah.
does, and it's really, you know, you just, the affordability is showing like consistency with VHFA then, and those already have the rental rates in there. So I would just say it's
Stephanie, what about,
covered.
maybe this is already, you kind of spoke to it already, developers' financial strength, but I'm envisioning a scenario in which a developer really needs to have like institutional partners in the region to help make a project like this work, you know, in terms of investment and things like that. And so would it make sense to just be, you know, demonstrated ability to, you know, work in partnership with, you know what I mean? Like, how do we
Yeah.
evaluate that? Or is it just something that they'll obviously like tell us about if they're good at that?
Right. That's a really good question. I'll have to noodle on it, because I
Yeah.
do think it's a fair
Maybe it's
point.
more, I don't know, like it just strikes me that you could envision a scenario in which we have multiple developers, one of which has a lot of experience working with partners and the other one that doesn't, right? And
Right. But then the other one is maybe coming from out of state, but they've done this in other areas and they do a
yeah,
good
so-
job, but they do it locally with their own partners. And so they've demonstrated the ability, you know, so,
yeah.
you know, I see that. I see that. I
Okay.
like it as more of a selection criteria, something to
Right.
consider rather than
Yeah.
it's not a requirement for them to prove. Yeah. I
Okay.
like that.
The
Yeah.
occupancy schedule seems to duplicate our discussion about schedule. So I don't think we would include it. Yeah.
It actually, what we do is now we move it up into, this is just the selection criteria. So it kind
Yeah.
of mimics, it kind of mirrors, I should say, the requirement for them to submit. So I think we do consider it. We just keep it here and we say, yeah, preliminary occupancy and build out. I think it's like build out and occupancy schedule. Because we
So
want to,
in the selection criteria, everything above others to consider, we've agreed on last time, and we've added developers' financial capacity and the occupancy schedule.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there's consensus on that as well.
Yeah. Do you guys feel good about that? The selection
Yeah.
We're
criteria
all okay with that.
for now?
And just yes.
Yes, it looks
Yeah.
like a yes.
Yes.
Okay. And just the same question for what we covered before on the requested information. It seemed to me we had consensus, but I want to make sure that we all
Right.
agreed on that. Okay.
And this isn't your last chance to look at it.
Yeah, good.
We're gonna do this in draft when you get the draft. Okay, good. Good discussion. I will save this document so I don't lose it. And I'm gonna share my screen. Am I? Yes, I am. Because I want to move on to. Oh, I kind of switched around my order, didn't I? We went into the discussion before we went to the homework. Sorry about that. And sorry, it's going to take me just a second to load up my screen. And but let's talk about the distribution list. So what I'm going to send you and what I'm going to show you now is a list, alphabetized list of the development partners that we've sent these to in the past, plus several that I've added that are specific to Central Vermont, plus the list that Adrian sent that had a lot of good websites and a lot of good data. So like use her example as a template, and Adrian, feel free to add to it, because it's a nice way to just, I mean, to just continue to send these ideas. The point is, I'm going to ask you to send these, send me more ideas between now and next week. So you can look at, you know, examples from around the country. You can find more locally. If you can find more locally, that's great. You know, these are the ones we've identified over the years. I want to note that we've kept people on this list. Like, we build this list internally. We've been building it for years. We never take people off the list, regardless of geography, if it's a scale, I should say, because you don't know when somebody from a different part of the state is like, hey, I want to do something really cool in that part of the state, you know, and we don't, in Vermont, we don't discount anybody who has a good track record for just because they haven't done something in your town. Doesn't mean, if they have a good track record and they have a good plan, the best thing is, you know, for them to expand their footprint, because Vermont's just too small. So you'll see names on there from Bennington and from maybe Franklin County, but you know, that's a good thing in my mind. So unless you feel strongly against that. And then here, I'll go ahead and pull this up now. My computer screen is currently mirroring my brain. I have too many tabs open. Hold on a second. This has been a whirlwind. It's late nights. All right, here we go. So here we go. So you can see it's just a list of names. On the back end, I have contact information that I'm, you know, I would not be able to share publicly for, you know, to the broad press. So I don't think these people want their names, you know, on a list somewhere like that. So this is all the different companies, all the different individual development partners that we've worked with or talked to over the years. We have a couple of listservs that we send to, and then Councilor Gill provided a nice start of a list of different websites and organizations, individual developers, designers. And I poked through this a good bit, Adrian. There's some really cool stuff. And some of it like really reminded me of some of the ideas that came out of that process 2 years ago, when people were like, you know, well, what about this? And I thought, I'd love that. You know, again, we can't design it in a bubble. I can't design that, but this is exactly what I was hoping we would do to get to this point. Now let's go find the people who've done the project, show them what we've got, that we've done all this good due diligence on, you know, what the site can support. And now we have this.
So, I mean, some of these folks are obviously outside of, you know, New England, and even like the one that I found, which was Locust, which was the Smart Growth Coalition, which you all should look. It was fascinating. So we might not have relationships with these organizations. So like, how do we build, like, how could we contact Locust and be like, hey, like, we've got this RFP, can you share it with your members? Because that's what they do. And their members are all, you know, part of this smart growth way of thinking. And so I don't know if there's like, I mean, you have your list that these folks, you know, expect RFPs coming from White and Burke, but even this small group, they've never heard of us. So like, do you call them? Do you send it to them? Do you just, it's like a, you know, what do they call it? Like a, sorry, my brain is fried this week, like a cold call.
Yeah, exactly. No, so what we do, I mean, some of the ways we do this, a couple things. One is, you know, we don't have to do all the distribution ourselves. We're happy to do it, but you know, if there were members that were like, you know, I'd like to do this bit, you know, if you were excited about reaching out, we never discourage a client from doing that. However, what we usually do is two things. You know, we can send it along and do a cold call. We can do a send, but we try to always find the person that we're needing to talk to. You know, we don't send just blast to some info at kind of address. So we have our due diligence, but the other thing is that we have a pretty strong national network of people that we work with. I am a CCIM and David is a CRE, which are both different commercial real estate licenses and designations. And so we have contacts in a lot of parts of the country. So usually what I do is I do a deep dive, I do LinkedIn, and I find if I know anybody who knows anybody at that place, and I try to go as close as I can get. That's just the way I operate. So try to get a warm touch kind of thing. And, or if we know a firm that worked, you know, we have partner firms that work up and down the Eastern Seaboard, you know, other partner firms that do stuff, so we can ask them, colleagues. So try to get as close as possible. But then it's about making the pitch, right? Like, I agree, you know, it's like, that's why we want this package to look good and tight and open. And we've got the website, you know, with lots of that legitimizes it, which is helpful for a project of this scale. That's important.
So maybe we draft something that, you know, that we send to folks who are, you know, have no idea who we are and what we're about, so that we're sort of consistent in our message to everybody in that group.
Yeah, mostly what I would say is let's build it into the RFQ and then lift the language directly from the RFQ, and I'll put that in my cover note. But really what you want to do is just have it should just be, the consistency is really important. So
Okay.
language is going to be, the way we're drafting this RFQ, it's going to have the mission of it. And I can of course add context that, you know, of what the process is and such. But these are also not companies that are, you know, in the medical field. Like they do this for work. Like this is what they're used to, land development. So, you know, they're not going to be totally surprised to see.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
Stephanie, can we just quickly, I'm sure you're going to share the list, but can we just look at it one more time?
sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you scroll down?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Needless to say, I have not heard of most of these companies.
Right. And they're all over the board in terms of big, small developers, more like specific, you know, contractor developers versus home builders. You know, there's a lot of different options there.
Yeah.
And sometimes what this is somebody who doesn't do this by themselves ever, right? Like SD Ireland isn't independently doing a lot of their own projects, but they're very much partnering with other people to do projects. And so we want to get it in all of their hands. Let them all consider it.
And they're accustomed to being part of an RFQ that goes to, you know, 200 companies.
Yeah, but we send them individually. I don't do it. It's not a blast because I don't want that.
Yeah, but they know that, you know,
they're one of many.
They're one of many.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna just offer that I have another set of contacts through my prior professional work, and the Loeb Fellowship through Harvard, which includes a lot of people who are very interested in smart growth development. And I can share that with them. That's a national distribution list as well.
Love
That's
that.
great.
Thank you very much. Okay. And you have my email now, Matt, because I copied you. Okay. So yeah, so what's that?
You have mine.
Yeah, yeah, I do. So the homework will be, I'll send this to you following this meeting. You're welcome to oh, I should send it to you. Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say I can send it to you in Excel and its native format if you wanted to add, you know, add things, but you could just send me what you want to add, however you want to do it. I'll figure out the format in a second and I'll send that to you. And if you can get those to me, we're meeting Wednesday morning, I think at 8. So just so that I can merge lists and and I'll just merge whatever you send to me. And if there's duplicates, dedupe it. And then next week, we'll look only at the new ones to finalize it. And really the only thing you're looking for after you've done your homework is just if there's anybody you have some strong revision to take off the list for some strong reason. And then you're welcome to suggest that and the committee can decide. I don't think there's much more to discuss about the distribution list after you've done your homework. Okay.
And that's going to be due to you when? Have you decided that? I mean, how much time are you going to need?
That's a good question. No, I don't need much time.
Sometime on
Tuesday. Does that feel okay by everybody? Okay. Yeah, let's say end of day Tuesday, 5 o'clock Tuesday. It'll give me Tuesday night to pull it together. All right. And then the other homework will be a draft document with the sections, starting to build the sections out. Kelly, what do you think? End of day Monday? Can we get them something that has any kind of?
I want to say yes, but the hesitation that I have is I would really like for planning to be involved in that.
Right.
And
Right.
so, Matt, we can certainly get together on sort of making sure that we draft that, and I can get it in front of Mike.
Yeah.
I'll try. Monday's also a holiday.
Oh, that's right. It is. Oh my goodness.
But that doesn't really, I mean, we
Crept
would
up on me.
certainly work towards getting it in at that point, if that's the consensus, but maybe certainly midday Tuesday.
Right. I was gonna say midday Tuesday. If we can get it to you by midday Tuesday, that would give everybody, you know, afternoon, evening to look at it before our meeting on Tuesday morning. Does that feel okay to the subcommittee?
I have
Can I just-
grandchild care all day Monday, so I won't get to it anyway on Monday.
Okay.
I mean, how long of a document are we talking about here?
Couple pages.
Yeah, great. I mean, I recognize that it takes time to write that. It won't take that long to review it.
Well, that's right. I mean, and truthfully, the majority of a lot of the document is actually what we've already covered, is the lists we've covered.
Yeah.
So the big chunks are the context and the
I think you need some poetry because we got the prose.
Yeah.
And you'll send it in a Word format so we can use comments and suggest edits more easily than say a PDF. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kelly, Tuesday morning is the homelessness.
Yeah, I know. I'm well aware of that. That's why I'm a little bit like, I'm going to try real hard, and also to make sure that planning probably, takes this, from here. And Matt, hopefully, we'll take a look at we can sort of divide and conquer. And then once Mike's back in the office, he can also take a look, and then we should be able to get it forward by midday, I would say. Because I mean, I won't necessarily be doing that, but planning could be working on that while we're at our homeless thing.
Yeah.
Right.
We have, we're finishing a grant application today, and I'll be able to work on it as soon as you get it to me.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to pick the picture that goes on the front? We need a picture, so
Matt.
Matt's gonna do it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Look
Matt.
at that. That was so
That's
great.
great.
I was like,
Thank you,
not it.
man.
Yeah.
Love someone
Pressure's up.
volunteering. Yes, thank you. Okay, great. All right. So for our agenda, we've actually covered everything we were gonna discuss today.
All right, and our meeting times next week are still good, 8 to 9, 1 hour both days.
Mhm.
That should do it. All right, and
Oh my
everybody's still
Yep.
good on that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Kelly, are you around today with a little available time?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, I have no objection to finishing early.
This is great.
What a
Thank you.
dream.
Yeah, I thought
Thank you for your leadership, Sal.
I was
I
like,
thought we
thank
made
you.
That was.
I thought we made good progress.
Good progress, yeah.
So I appreciate the effort everybody's putting in. I know it's been a rough week, and we need to push one more week and see what happens. So
You can do it.
thanks for your help and your participation, and I'll see you next Wednesday, if not before.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Good
See you,
weekend,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.